Hello and welcome to the American Fun 351 YouTube channel. Today we're going to take a look at and talk about this fairly rare Argentine high power. And if you don't know what a high power is, it refers to this model of pistol, which was one of the last ones ever designed by the famous John Moses Browning. He didn't quite get to finish it because he died before it was completely finalized. But so one of his good friends and co-workers at FN named Diodine Save would help finish it. And Mr. Save is no gun designing slouch himself. He would go on to develop a few very popular firearms like the FN-FAL. And so this handgun had a really big amount of brain power behind it. And when it came out in 1934, it was basically an instant hit and has been produced non-stop somewhere in the world ever since then. The Belgian army was one of the first groups to ever adopt it. But one of the things that it offered that was so great and revolutionary at the time was the double stack magazine. And so the rounds, when they go in here, are kind of staggered, diagonal from each other. And compared to single stack magazines like this 1911 magazine, where you only get 7 rounds of 45 ACP, you can fit 13 rounds of 9mm in here. And so in the 30s, when this came out, most nations and armies around the world were fielding semi-automatic handguns with single-stack magazines that only held 6 to 8 rounds. And so by switching to the high power, you basically doubled your magazine capacity and potential output. And so about 50 nations around the world would go on to adopt the high power and make it their standard issue sidearm. And even Argentina, down in South America, would start manufacturing their own, which is what I happen to have. And they were so popular that even during World War II, both sides were using them. The Germans had a lot that they captured and built in Belgium during the war, and the English and Commonwealth nations as well had them. A lot of theirs were built in Canada. But it just shows you how popular the high power was. And that's just a little bit of background about the general design. Now we're going to talk specifically about Argentina and my high power. And just a little bit of background about Argentina. I happened to live there for a few years, so it holds a very special place in my heart, and I'm very happy to have this handgun. And one of the things I quickly learned while I was in Argentina is they really like building their own stuff. They have a whole lot of protectionist tariffs and import duties that make it difficult to import cheap things. And so a lot of things are all made in-house in Argentina, and that includes their arms. And that example even existed before they started building these high powers. Right here we have a Colt Sistema 1927, which is the Argentinian license-built copy of a 1911. And we'll have a video out on this one later, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. We have a whole lot of guns to look at and talk about. But that's what they were using before they decided to switch over to the high power. In the 60s, Argentina decided it was about time to move on from the Sistema 27. And so they started talking with FN, and they purchased a few of these handguns, but what they really wanted was to set up a factory. And by 1969, Argentina had set up a factory to build high-power pistols in Rosario, which is a town in Santa Fe. And it was set up by FN engineers with FN tooling. And so this is as close as you can get to FN built high power on this continent. You know, it's an exact copy. And so that's really awesome. The Argentines, I think I might have said it earlier, but they would go on to build about 400,000 of these ever since 1969. And these are really great little handguns. Some of the features, it has a magazine safety disconnect. So if your magazine's not in the gun, it won't fire. So that's a safety feature that some armies wanted. But with the magazine in, it'll click. And you can take that out by pushing out this pin and removing the mechanism inside the frame that does that. But mine's staked in place, and I don't particularly care to take it out, so it's going to stay like that. This is our safety back here. And it also doubles as a little assistant to help you kill the slide back when you're taking the gun apart, so you can pull out that little pin. But those are pretty much all the controls besides your magazine release. And we're just going to take a quick look at the markings on my gun. But so if you can read right there, it says Fábrica Militar de Armas Portátiles, DM, which means Domingo Matthew, and Rosario, which, like I said, is the town in Santa Fe. And so that basically just means a military arms factory for portable arms, small arms. And Licencia FN Browning, letting us know that it's a license-built copy of an FN Browning, high power. And then Industria Argentina, which is stamped on just about everything down there, which means made in Argentina. Then down here on the frame, I have an O. Up on the slide, I have a U with a star, if you can see that. And down here, I also have an F with a star above it. And then the most interesting stamps are right up here at the front. We have our serial number stamped 3 times on the barrel, slide, and frame. And mine happens to have a prefix. And so the prefixes all stand for something. 07 means it was an export. It was intended to be sold outside of the country. Like 01 means it was for the military, and there's a few other designations. But the most interesting stamp on mine happens to be this one, which looks kind of ugly. And it might look like someone tried to put this in a vise to work on it, but you have no mark on the other side. And what this mark actually is an Argentinian scrubbing of the words Carabineros de Chile. And the Carabineros de Chile were a national, well, still are, a national law enforcement group over in Chile. And so in 1974, they put in a contract for about 6,000 of these high powers from Argentina. And for whatever reason, the contract fell apart, and they never received their shipment of arms or never paid for them. And so Argentina decided to just stamp it out and then use them however they felt like it. And if you can tell, my example was pretty well worn. And when I lived down in Argentina, a lot of the cops I saw were still carrying high powers. I was friends with a guy that was a cop, and he let me play with his gun a little bit and hold it. And he had a high power exactly like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if this gun served for, a few decades down in Argentina on a police officer's hip. But high powers in general are just great handguns. We looked at the 1911 a little bit earlier, and John Moses Browning basically designed both of these. And so a lot of elements from the 1911 you can kind of see on the high power. But Argentinian models, especially these early ones that, are stamped Licencia FN Browning, are really great examples. And they're a lot cheaper compared to World War II or Belgian models. So if you're ever looking for a high power to add to your collection, don't overlook any of the Argentinian ones. They're really great, and they're also full of lots of history. And we took this one shooting a couple weekends ago. I'll link a short down in the description you can watch. Maybe I'll make some more videos at the range, talking and stuff. But I really like these handguns. I think they're great. And I hope you like this video. Hope you learned something from it. And please be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on anything else coming out in the future. Thank you so much.